What's up, NIO family? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the overall market. I'm going to break down some big news that came out involving President Trump and the whole situation with Israel and Iran and the US's involvement. Also, what's going on with the news involving NIO. Just know that I am not a financial planner. Take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, as far as NIO is going, we have a double top leg structure right over here, and we got this rejection. We've been making lower highs, and right now we do look a bit more bearish as we have this imbalance that could drag us down to the 3.3s. But once we hit 3.3, historically, we do like to bounce around that area. If not, we could be tipping a bit lower to the low threes. So I do think we look bearish. We could be tipping a bit lower, and we'll have to see what kind of reaction we get. Goldman Sachs has upgraded NIO from a sell to a neutral rating because of some big ship news that's come out, but it hasn't really been enough to get the share price to bounce yet. NIO bouncing depends more on profitability and what we can actually see, although this news is very optimistic. NIO is spinning off the chip division. It wants a slice of Nvidia's AI pie, and you guys can see that what they're planning on doing is starting a different company, which is going to be helping them to produce these chips. And eventually, once they launch that, they're going to be able to basically provide other companies with these chips. That could be very lucrative for them, so keep that in mind. That's what they're essentially going for. Goldman Sachs also upgraded NIO after what happened so far because they want to see them essentially cut costs. But at the same time, they have a more neutral rating. Many analysts do believe that NIO has a lot of upside potential, pushing for the $9 price targets. Others out there have different views of that, so we'll have to see how that goes. But overall, it has upside potential. Now, with the whole situation around the world, there could be a negative catalyst if we do get a negative reaction to this. President Trump has made the announcements. He addressed the nation yesterday that we have completed our very successful attack on these 3 nuclear sites in Iran. Basically, the U.S. is now involved in the war directly. They're not just going to supply Israel, they're actually now involved with attacking potential nuclear sites. And this is some big news because, when you look at what's happening so far, now we're going to be listening to see what happens with Iran as they are now threatening to retaliate against the U.S. President Trump responded by saying any retaliation by Iran against the U.S. will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. So just goes to show, guys, the situation is very intense. It started off with Israel feeling threatened by Iran. And as a result, the war that broke out between the two countries has now got the U.S. involved. Keep in mind, Iran is also backed by other countries from China. Although China doesn't have close ties with them, I would talk about Turkey, Pakistan, and other regions like that are more involved. But like I said before, they are still technically allies. And then on Israel's side, you have like the U.S. backing them alongside other European countries, Canada, and the list goes on. It's a very, very tough situation, and if this war were to continue, we're already seeing oil prices going up. So for example, if we go down here, you guys could see that Brent's crude is now up 20% to about $79, and there is going to be a risk of us seeing $130 per a barrel of oil. So oil prices are oil prices are going up. Also, we could see crude oil futures are currently nearing the 70 area. They're continuing to climb. This is going to continue to climb, likely back up towards these highs. And as you know, as crude starts to climb, this tends to be inflationary. So there's going to be a risk of higher inflation as a result of this, thus making the jobs more complicated for the Fed because their job is to control inflation, and this could be working against them. So is the Fed going to have to keep rates higher for longer? It may have to happen, which could have more economic effects that are negative. Tomorrow is going to be Monday, June 23rd. At 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the S&P Global Composite Manufacturing and Services PMI reports. Then we have Bowman from the Fed giving a speech. Keep that in mind. Also, the market's neutral. We're going to see if this becomes more fearful as time goes on or not. Typically, wars are more bullish for the market for the longer term, but for the short term, there could be very nuanced reactions. I still think NIO looks bearish. So there's going to be a risk of us hitting 3.3, and we'll see if we bounce off that or not. As far as SPY is going, we're trying to hold the support. We did dip a bit on Friday, but you want to see if this could get back above 598s to bounce, if this bounces or not. However, if we don't hold 592.5, I'm going to be more bearish, and we need to get back above at least 598 to see some kind of bounce. We're favoring downside, and in case we do end up failing here, whether we get a small rebound and then dip, or if we just dip from here, if we gap down below 592 and can't hold that, there's going to be a risk of us dipping all the way down to 590, so please keep that in mind. And then if that fails us, we're looking for the 580s, like 585 or so. So in turn, I think there's going to be a risk of a lot more downsides. So you want to be very, very careful with what's going on right here, especially if SPY is looking kind of weak. So we have this 20 EMA acting as a support, and we'll have to see if we bounce off that or not. Otherwise, we are still favoring the downwards direction, and there is downside risk because of this whole war situation. On the QQQ, if we end up losing 524, we're looking for a dump back down towards like 515. But if we end up bouncing and get back above 530, we could turn bullish. We're in the middle for now, but we're going to see if we get a downside move as a result of crude going up. So you want to be very careful. Same thing with the Russell. Will the Russell bounce back above 212 or does it start dipping lower towards like 208? We'll have to see about that. ES and them are not trading yet, but we're going to see if ES could get back above 6100 to be bullish, or if we fail at 6000 near the 20 EMA. If we fail there, there's going to be a risk of us returning to like the lower. Well, first off, we have like 5950 coming next and lower levels. On NQ, you want to get back above 22,150 to bounce. If not, we could be dipping towards 21,000 flat. Tesla has the launch of their potential robo-taxi. Is that enough to get the share price to bounce? We'll see. I need to see Tesla reclaim 333. But if we lose 310, we're going to be at risk of dumping as well, especially as we have a gap to fill down there. So I'm going to be very careful with Tesla with this whole war news, and then also because of the whole saying that goes by the rumors sold the news in case we do get some kind of downside move. On Nvidia, we're going to see if this breaks out above 147 to push higher. If not, we could be dipping lower. If 142 fails us, we're going to be coming down to fill this gap, then retest 139 for a small dip. Apple's been pushing, but we're testing this trend line of resistance. I want to see if Apple could hold above 202. If not, we could turn back down and fill this gap. So you want to be very careful. AMD has been looking bullish, but the daily is kind of weak here. We're going to see if we get back above 130. If not, there's going to be a risk of us returning to 124. On Coinbase, we're pushing to about the 310s. We'll see if we push higher to like 315. If not, there's a gap to fill around 295. On Amazon, we have 209. We're going to see if we lose that or not. We need to hold 209. If not, we're looking for 204. Meta is also dipping towards 674. 674. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. If we don't bounce off that, we may continue to fall all the way down towards 660. So you want to be very careful. Google is making lower highs, not looking that great. We're going to see if we reclaim 170. If we can't hold above that, we may continue to fall back down to 165. And then Microsoft could be dipping back down towards 472. So you want to be very careful with that downside risk. So my view of the market is that we have to be very careful. There's going to be downside risk. We're going to see if we bounce here or not. Otherwise, we may be favoring the downwards direction. We could rebound before it continues to fall, or it could just gap down and dip. I am going to tell you there's a higher probability of us getting downside because of crude potentially climbing and because of the inflationary risks. That may just be a temporary move, so keep that in mind. But that's what I'm seeing so far. Also, we're going to be watching the VIX and others very carefully. For now, NIO looks a bit more bearish. We're going to be favoring the low threes. So please be very, very careful. Anyways, I thank you all so much for listening. NIO might be dipping to 3.3, and we'll see if we hold or not. I do anticipate a bit more downside, and we'll see how it goes from there. The war situation is very intense. We'll have to see what happens as time goes on, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up about that. Anyways, I thank you all so much for listening. Have a good one, and peace out.